What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Ring the Bell, a Phillies podcast. I'm your host, Chris E. Francesco. We are live. Jason Kent, Dean Holzapple, the original trilogy here. Boys, what's going on? How are you? Dean, how you been, man?
I shotgun Empire Strikes Back for the original trilogy.
That's fair. I understand. That's okay. But what's going on, guys? How are you?
I'm pretty good. Pretty good. Nice quiet day. I stayed away from anything that would stress me out, like this damn game. So,
I will say though, oh my gosh, man,
it was
really
hot
all
at that
day
stadium.
today.
It was quite. There was a nice breeze out there.
Yeah.
But it didn't really make up for that heat.
How was the atmosphere, man? Being alumni weekend.
It felt good. It wasn't as packed today as I expected. I did believe there'd be more people there, especially the two teams that they were having. And It was awesome to see Schilling there today.
That was my favorite part. Seeing
he's usually there.
I didn't think he was usually there.
He's been there a couple of times when they've honored the '93 team.
Okay, all right.
But he got a big standing. You know, everybody gave him a good clap. I was a little disappointed. I texted you right away. I was really disappointed on Friday night with the booing of Scott Rowland.
Who told you that was going to happen? and Jason the whole time's like, man, they're not going to boo him. He's in the Hall of Fame. I was like, you watch. They are going to boo him.
But, if he would have went in as a Philly, they would have cheered him.
Of course, of course. All right, so
the city hates him for some reason.
Yeah, I don't get it. God forbid people don't want to play for a 65-win team at the time, right? So let's kind of, since we had the show earlier this week, we can really kind of focus on breaking down the Twins series, which you talk about going as high as you possibly can and then dropping as low as possible in a baseball weekend. The Phillies did that. And look, at the end of the day, you dropped 2 or 3 in Minnesota, right? At the end of the day, though, guys, the Phillies really still have full control of this thing. It really didn't do any damage per se. I mean, it didn't help in terms of elevating themselves even further away from the San Francisco Giants. But as of right now, they're still 3 games up of the Giants. They just got the Giants. If you look at their schedule, have a pretty tough road ahead of them. I'm going to have to go find their schedule real quick. But then you look at the Phillies coming up. They have a 2-game set in Toronto, and you have a weekend series with the Washington Nationals. So the Phillies have a really good shot here to rebound from just this weekend. Jay, did this weekend at all swerve you from where this team in your head is going?
No. When you look at the homestand before Saturday, they were 6-2 with 60 runs, 21 home runs, 19 doubles, batting .303. So you kind of expected them to come down a little bit. So it just stunk that it was 2 games in a row not putting up any runs. But I do think what you just said, they still control their destiny. I think they have 3 or 6 against San Fran. They have a ton against the Mets, who really seem like they've just blown it up. They still play Miami.
Games, I think, against the Mets, I think.
Yeah, so and then you play Miami. So all the teams that are right there, you're still playing. So you have, and the Phillies have a very easy schedule. So these 2 games, you kind of expected it. The Twins are leading their division. They're a good team.
But the Phillies on Saturday and Sunday faced 2 good pitchers.
Yeah, and they were shut down. But T1 didn't look good either. Another bad outing by him. So it's very that's starting to get a little concerning.
They pushed his next start back a day.
I did hear that. Yep, and Ranger looked a little rough today too. So it's you're starting to get a little worried with some of those back end pitchers.
Yeah, and if you look at what's coming up for the Giants, I have this up here now. They have the Rays coming up this week. Then they have the Braves next weekend, and they come right out of that and they face the Phillies. So, again, this is like the first weekend of the season where I texted our group and I said, I'm actually not swerved at all from this weekend. I'm not bothered by it. I'm okay with it all. It is what it is. But again, it was bound to happen. And what I mean by that is, outside of, like loading the bases in the 7th inning, on Sunday, they only got 2 runners past first base, both in the 2nd inning, and they lost both games because of their lineup. because in the first 8 games of this recent homestand, the Phillies pounded 60 runs. 21 of them were from home runs. And in the last 2 games of this series, they combined for 1 run and hit 212. Yes, and we'll talk a little bit about how the umpires are actually horrid on Sunday. And I mean legendary. And I don't complain about umpires. I don't. I've played the game my whole life. I've always been taught never rely on the umpires to help you out. I know sometimes baseball players, especially as hitters, in your head, you have a strike zone. And sometimes you really have to, it sucks because when an umpire has a massive strike zone or is just really bad, like the Phillies had on Sunday, it's hard to go up to the plate when you have your strike zone in your head and you have to somehow be a mind reader and also play with the strike zone in the umpire's head. I felt like on Sunday that got in the Phillies, heads a little bit. But still, at the end of the day, I think the Phillies blew the proverbial load on Friday night, just mashing the Twins at one point where, the Twins had Lolo come in and pitch, and then Johan Rojas gets his first career Major League Baseball home run. I hope in like 30 years he makes up a story where, yeah, man, my first home run was off Garrett Cole, game winner. Not a position player.
Chris, they did have 3 separate at bats where they had bases loaded, and 2 of them Schwarber. Schwarber struck out once, popped out another time. So today they really, I felt today was more on them than them. Today was they lost it. Like they had the opportunities, they did not come through it all. It was a struggle because they did. While they weren't hitting early, they were getting, runners on base. So it was tough to see 3 different at bats with bases loaded and come out with 0 runs there. Especially, I think the one was, I think you said the 7th, where they had the bases loaded with 1 out and you couldn't get anything across. That's tough.
And another tough part is if you look at the Alec Boehm strikeout, which was, oh my God. I mean, look, I again, I don't like complaining too much, but that ball was about 5 inches inside. I mean, there's no way at all ever that's a strike 3. If he gets on there, that's
a different game.
Bryce Harper comes up with the bases loaded down by 1. Like that.
Oh, that place is exploding. That's where Bryce thrives.
Exactly. So now you've completely, as an umpire, you've made yourself front and center, which is what an umpire is never supposed to do. And now you've completely almost eliminated the other team from the game. So in my belief on Sunday, the Minnesota Twins and their tag team partner, the home plate umpire, beat the Philadelphia Phillies. But look, at the end of the day, again, you still got to hit the ball. Again, when you have bases loaded twice and you get nothing out of it, when August Schwarber comes up and does nothing with both of those at bats, then you kind of, in a way, you deserve to lose the game, right? I know Dean's a big guy like that, where the Phillies sometimes are really good at beating themselves, and I feel like Dean, that kind of played into this weekend because they had so many opportunities to have timely hits. And it just didn't happen. You just completely squandered opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what it was. Especially, I mean, yesterday they just didn't play good, but today was a very winnable game that they just didn't take advantage of the opportunities that were given to them when the umps were not fisting them.
So to make things worse, and I read this after the game because I didn't know, but McKay, who was the home plate umpire, I forget his first name. I have to, but to this umpire, he's a minor league umpire who was filling in for a vacationing big league umpire.
Nice to hear.
And by the way,
it wasn't Angel Hernandez, was it?
Oh no, and it probably wasn't CB Buckner either. But if you look at, let's go back to Wednesday. If everybody remembers Wednesday's first game of doubleheader. That was umpire Lou Williams, who had 3 calls overturned in that first game of Wednesday's doubleheader. Lou Williams was also a minor league umpire filling in. So the Phillies, I don't know why, all this kind of stuff always seems to happen to them, get 2 minor league call-up umpires deciding games for them almost. And look, it's a problem, but let's kind of move forward now. Like I said, the Phillies right now, as it stands, are 3 games up, and they hold the control. They hold all the cards, all the cliche sayings, they control their own destiny, blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is They've lost 2 in a row in a series that they really should have, at least taken the series and it would have had 2 or 3. That would have been really nice. That's the goal in baseball, is to win series. But they just didn't do that this weekend. So let's kind of break down a little bit today's game. And, in July, which Jay alluded to, Ranger Suarez has been struggling. He was 0-3 in July with a 6.11 ERA. He had started to show signs a little bit of rebounding in August. He gave up 2 runs on 6 hits and a walk by striking out 8. So far this month, he's at a 2.45 ERA. But Jay, you're right. Something still just seems off with him. Can you pinpoint that?
No, because he was a guy that I really thought was going to take that next step this season, and he is making. He's lasting longer in games, but it feels like maybe his accuracy is not what it was last season. It's just there's something off with, because he's definitely being able to be stretched out longer this season. He's just not getting the outs that he was getting in the past. So I don't know if it's a confidence thing, but he's not looked like the guy that we expected. He's kind of been really up and down this season. It's really been it's been tough. Kind of like, I guess, the rest of the starters though.
Yeah, and if you look at Taijuan Walker's another guy who, it's gotten to a point now where they're pushing back his next scheduled start a day to give him a little bit extra rest. I don't understand the rest thing. I think it's more of, hey, you're not performing well. Let's just give you an extra day of mental health here to try to figure this out. Because again, and I'll go to Dean on this, we talked about before how it's mid-August now. Like, this is considered the stretch run. I always consider August and September, that's where teams start to get hot in that push for October and now into November. Are you at all worried about this pitching staff, even more so than we were before?
Not at the moment, but if I would say maybe like another week, if we get like another kind of some bad performances throughout this course of this week, and maybe into by next show. Or I guess next show I'm on. I won't be on next Sunday. So I guess maybe 2 weeks. I'd be worried then. Because, every pitcher has their bad day here and there. And Walker's been pretty consistent for most of the season. So I'm a little worried about Ranger. He looks like he's regressing again. I have no faith in Nola. So, but Wheeler and Lorenzen have pitched really, really well. Lorenzen had a no-hitter. So, but he had a really good first start for the Phillies as well. So, I guess it really just depends on, Ranger, honestly, because again, I have no faith. I have no faith in Nola. So,
and it's crazy because in Nola's last 3 starts, he hasn't gone more than 5 2/3 innings. He went 4 2/3 against Pittsburgh in July 29th. 5 1/3 on August 4th. In his last start, he went 5. And his previous 2 starts, he went 7 and 7 1/3. Jay, I could have told you this in April. I think it's really time to chalk up this season as one where if there's one guy that is 100% unreliable, it's got to be Aaron Nola, right?
It is. The face, I don't know if everybody's watching, just saw me make a face. I just saw he had a 4.49 ERA. I wasn't expecting this. If you listen to this, I've been a big Nola guy. I predicted maybe, Cy Young was a little much, but I predicted him to have a good season.
You did predict the Cy Young.
No, the Cy Young might have been a little much.
Okay, I see.
It might have, but I still thought on that contract year, but he has not looked good. And it's tough, like in the first inning of games, even, now you're in August, the pitch clocks look like it's getting to him. Like, come on, you're mid-August. You've had so far all season. I don't want to hear that as an excuse anymore.
No more excuses.
You're a professional, and you're trying to get paid, and you're supposed to be the guy. And unless something drastic happens, it's tough because you really expected a nice 1-2 punch going into this season with Wheeler and Nola kind of anchoring down, and that's not happening. I think a lot of people still believe in Nola.
Me and Chris. Yeah. Well,
nobody expected a 4.49.
No,
Chris and I did. Chris and I totally did. right
I
here.
can't say
This guy right here
in
with his
your
hand
heart of
raised,
hearts,
and the guy
there's no way
above
you
me,
expected a
right here.
4.49.
Jay, I swear to
yeah,
you,
you're right. I was expecting a 7.
I honestly was expecting anywhere between a 4.3 and a 4.5.
Yeah,
because I don't know why I would. How could I think anything different? Because look, I don't believe in him to begin with, and I just don't see how.
Because the
It's
dude in 2 seasons before, only 2 seasons, he's had over 4 ERA twice out of 7 or 9 years, however long he's been in the league, just twice. And so before this season, that's it. And one was his second year in. So like, come on, nobody expected a 4.45. Like that's tough. And like I expected a 3.5. When you're that run is a huge deal when you're supposed to be the ace of a staff. So I think he's definitely been the biggest disappointment of this team.
I think absolutely. And if you go down to the number one guy who is the ace of the staff, his last 5 starts, Zach Wheeler's gone 6 and 2/3, and then back-to-back 7-inning starts. So it looks like Wheeler's starting to get it. He's still giving up, around 3 runs per outing. He had a couple there where he only gave up 1. That start against Pittsburgh where he went 6 and 2/3 with 11 Ks was a big deal. I mean, he's still in at 3.74 with a WHIP of 1.1. And I will say this, in his last start, Jay, I think I texted you about this. It's really starting to show that I think, Zach Wheeler's he's not pumping 97, 96, 97 lately. It's 93, 94. Like that velocity seems to be dropping. And I hope we're not getting to a point now where he's getting the dead arm issue that we saw last season already. Are either of you worried at all about the lack of velocity from Wheeler?
a little bit because he's a power pitcher.
Pitcher.
And it's hard to make that adjustment like mid-season. And we saw that first game of the World Series that he pitched was game 2. Him not having that velocity really affected his pitching in that game.
Mm-hmm.
So it does worry me a little bit. I mean, he's pitching good for the most part. He's not pitching like Aaron Nola, but I expect Wheeler to be reaching 100. Like he's done for most of his career. Or very high 90s.
I would love 97, 98 consistently. Yeah, the normal.
At this point, it's become alarming though.
Yeah,
because it's
last season.
It's such a difference in velocity.
It is.
It's not like he lost a mile or 2. He's lost
it's like 3 or 4.
It's like 8
and that's a big
miles,
deal.
like 8, 7, 8.
Oh, you're right.
I mean?
7,
I've
8,
seen him.
Right.
I've seen him hit like 101 on the radar gun. So it's like it does worry me. I mean, but maybe he's professional enough to pitch around that. Let's just hope.
But to be back-to-back seasons, that's tough. Like it's starting to become a trend with him.
Yes, you're right.
But you're hoping come September, October, because didn't they give him that shot before, I guess, game 5? You got to do something to manage that arm because going into playoffs, you need 96, 97 Wheeler. You can't have him going out there not, giving cupcakes, especially when you're a dude that's been gassed your whole career.
Yeah, I think this is a team if we do make the playoffs because it's still an if. There's still some tough series coming up in September and stuff like that. But they absolutely have to go with a 5-man rotation in the playoffs, in my opinion. There can't be putting anybody in the bullpen, running 3 guys out basically like they did last year. It's got to be all 5 pitchers. You need Nola on at least 5 days of rest because anything less than that, he's batting practice, and it would only help, Wheeler. So I think a 5-man rotation for the playoffs is the smartest thing to do because usually teams will dump their 5th starter in the bullpen. I would not be doing that with the way his velocity has been.
Johnny Mack checking in. Johnny is a new member of the show. He'll be on next week. He asked a good question. I'll ask Jay this. Do you feel like Nola just has an I don't care attitude, like he plays baseball just because he's really good at it?
No. And when you see his emotion on the field, he has a lot, whether good or bad, he has a lot of it. He's a very emotional guy out there. I don't believe he plays just because he's good at it. I think he wants to be good. He just can't figure it out. I just think he won't. He's not going to be able to figure it out because he's shown the flashes. We've all seen it.
Mhm.
You don't, no matter what anyone says, you don't finish top 5 in the Cy Young if you had a bad season. So we can clown the guy all we want. He's shown flashes that he can do it, but he's just one of those guys that potential he'll just never see because he can't figure it out.
My only issue, and I'm going to say this again, we talked about this the other night, Jay. Yes, he finished top 5 in the Cy Young twice, and last year was odd. But since 2018, he's just about hitting that 4 ERA. So, like, again, can't we look at that one 2018 season as that was a complete and utter flash in the pan because he's never, ever come close to that again. So,
he's
like,
also a sub 500 pitcher, I think, if you remove that 2018 season.
So, yeah, I mean, wins and losses are kind of an odd thing with Major League Baseball for pitchers. But I will say, though, it's odd to me to hear people say, this isn't Nola, this isn't Nola. Well, it's been 5 years since Nola was that guy that people thought that he was. I mean, there was a time where a lot of Philly media and fans thought Vince Velasquez was the next big thing. And literally just absolutely brutal. But when you look at Nola, and I don't think he's going to be a problem for the Phillies. I don't think he's going to be here after this year unless that price has dropped dramatically. But other than that, you still need him for the playoffs. In a 5-game series, he's your game 2 starter. And look, that's not like a prediction. That's a spoiler. Spoiler alert. He's going to be your number 2 star. Topper is a player's guy. He's not going to change anything. Unless Nola's hurt, he will absolutely be your game 2 starter.
Yep. Might even game 1 like he was last year.
Yeah, depending on I guess Wheeler's last start, what it took to get into the postseason. Yeah, Nola could be your week 1, your game 1 starter, Jay.
The problem is he just gives up a lot of he gives up too many home run balls too. That's a big issue because he is always a guy
this year.
He has a super low whip, but yeah, he leads the league in home run balls. He's always been a guy that gives up a lot of long balls.
26
so that's
this year.
Where it's deceiving. He's got that very low ERA or the very low whip, but the ERA seems higher. But he needs to figure. I think that's it. And if he could get that curveball working on a consistent basis, he would be a much different pitcher.
All right. So
the problem with Nola is he's been in the league for a decade. And he's had one really good season. So I mean, that's why I rail against him because you have other media outlets and fans telling me that this guy was the second coming of Cole Hamels, who was a very good pitcher. And this guy's like the second coming of Jake Arrieta, minus the Cy Young and the World Series.
Oh man, that's funny. All right, so let's kind of move over to the offense, who in the final 2 days of this series, they went 0 for 14 with runners in scoring position and 17 men left on base. And you go down the line, you still look at some of these hitters. Over the last week, Nick Castellanos is hitting over 400. In the last 2 weeks, Nick Castellanos is hitting 340. These guys are still hitting the baseball. You look at Trey Turner. We all know what he's been doing since the game 1 of that standing ovation. He's hitting 490 in the last week, and he's hitting 325 in the last 2 weeks. So it seems that Trey Turner has really started to kind of figure it out. Other than that, in the lineup, Bryson Stott's still hitting the ball. The only guy that's really not hitting that well, again, is Kyle Schwarber. Jay, I know they had that 13-run barrage on Friday, which was great. It was also great to see. JT's been hitting the ball better. What are any area of worry here as we go into a new week?
Offensively, no. Casty's still looking good. He seemed to figure it out. Like you said, I guess, Trey figured it out. It's very, very glad to see him start hitting. Bohm still ripping the cover off the ball. I'm resigned to what fact Schwarber's going to do. So I'm okay with what he gives us because it's not going to change. The one thing I'm a little worried Even though he's got a few RBIs with last 2 weeks stats not look the greatest. But it's, the up and downs of the season. I'm not super concerned, but no, I think this offense right now is clicking the way we really expected it to.
Yeah, and if you look at JT Realmuto himself over the last week, he's hitting 280. The last 2 weeks, JT's right back. He's batting 315 in the last 2 weeks, and he's gotten that batting average in a month. The last month he's hitting 262. So it looks like JT is starting to figure it out. He's at hitting 250 now. He's probably going to end up right around where we normally expect him to be at the end of the season. Bryson Stott, again, yeah, you're right. It's somebody who we look at like, man, he's been so darn consistent the entire season, but and he kind of has been. Over the last 2 weeks, he's still batting 310, 320 in the last week, 353 in the last month for Bryson Stott. Is Bryson Stott the MVP of the Phillies this year?
It's possible.
No.
Who would it be? Bohm?
There we go.
Schwarber?
No. It really
Aaron Nola.
As much as I hate
something
him,
stupid like that.
When you lead the team in home runs,
RBIs,
and
runs,
it kind of, as much as we hate on him for the average, and I hate that I'm saying this, but it kind of has to be that guy, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think once that other day when we saw that the foul tip off his foot, as much as I hate on the guy, my first thought was, man, he's a guy I don't think we can lose right now, because he is the one that, as much as it strikes out and as much as he can't hit, those home runs are essential.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, the next guy on the team has 10 less than him. With Castellanos.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean,
and look,
you lose those 30 home runs. I mean, it's like we always say, you can rail against the average. You guys just said it, but 30 home runs is a lot of home runs. That's a lot. And how many walks does he got now?
I think he leads the league in walks too. Well, walks and walks and strikeouts.
He leads the league. Yeah, he's second in the league in walks, I think, and he leads the league in strikeouts. So, for every strikeout, it seems like 2 more at bats he gets on base. But look, here's the number I guess that really matters, and it's the number that I guess Topper looks at, and that's it's been 60 games, 61 games, I believe now since June 2nd, which was when Kyle Schwarber resumed his spot at the leadoff in the card, top of the card there. Mm-hmm. The Phillies are 40-21 in that span and have the second best run differential in baseball. So that's it. Whether or not we like it, whatever it is, it works. Yeah. And I understand that batting average to me is a big deal, but Jay, apparently in 2023 baseball, it does not matter as long as he's doing other things well. But it's incredible to me because it's not like he has a high OBP either. He doesn't.
No. Well, when you're batting 187, I don't care if you lead the league in walks or not. It's going to be tough to get anywhere close to 350, but it does stink because most of the time you're not going to have somebody on there. So there is a problem. I remember first inning, I think we had 2 guys on in the first, or a guy on where it could have been something nice. So it stinks when you don't have that, when you're really not consistent with it, because it was nice last year when you saw where Turner came from. You had Turner, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. That's the top of the lineup. You're like, man, we're going to pump these runs through. So even though Schwarber leads the team, those home runs are better suited for the 4-hole. It just really are. So it's tough. I don't get it, but if they're winning, it's tough to argue with.
I agree. Absolutely agree. I mean, it's a good point. All right, so we're going to take a very fast break here to pay the bills and take a pause for the calls here, and then we're going to come right back and wrap up the show and give our predictions for this week. But I'm here to strictly just talk to fantasy football owners. So as the season approaches, if you've already had your draft, I know this was the first week of preseason games. Don't neglect the most important draft pick of all, and that's your game balls. We all know how injuries can ruin a season, so let Manscaped take care of that Reggie Bush of yours with their skin-safe technology. This should guarantee you have a smooth ride into the playoffs. The leaders in below-the-waist grooming and above-the-neck grooming as well now have created a championship lineup with their Performance Package 4.0, and it's time for you to do the same. Join the 9 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for kickoff by heading over to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping worldwide with our code baseball20 at manscaped.com. Inside this performance package, you will find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker, ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance Boxer briefs, and a travel bag. It's just absolutely spectacular. Everything that is in this thing. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multi-function on-off switch that can engage a travel lock, and is even waterproof. The Lawnmower 4.0 also has a 4,000K LED light. What the hell needs a 4,000K LED light? You know what does? Something that can help shave them balls. It's brighter than Bryce Young's future in the end zone. So get 20% off plus free shipping with this code baseball20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off free shipping with the code baseball20 at manscaped.com. All right, boys, welcome back. Also, and look at that, a nice view of the living room of Jay and that beautiful, what's that, a Baldwin piano? Let's go.
It's from Billy Joel. Billy Joel at one of his concerts actually let me go up on stage and play
take it. You just took it.
So I played it, and he's like, "Yo, you can have it." So he let me. He actually came back to the house with me. That my front door right over here. We walked in, sat on the couch, hung out, had a few cigars. So yeah, that's Billy Joel's piano.
I hope Billy Joel didn't drink and drive.
Well, because I can neither confirm nor deny that what happened after.
Because I'm pretty sure there'd be some building is not intact anymore. So,
all right. So also, guys, head over to SeatGeek.com right now. SeatGeek is a proud sponsor of Ring the Bell. Head over there right now. Use our code ONTHEBUMP for $20 off your very first ticket purchase. Again, SeatGeek.com, the official ticket provider of Major League Baseball. Use our code ONTHEBUMP for $20 off your very first ticket purchase. All right, guys, we have a big series this week, 2 of them. We have a 2-gamer against a pretty good team in Toronto Blue Jays, and then we come back and we have a weekend series with the Washington Nationals. It's a pretty big series in terms of especially that National series. It's a National League team. You really want to start moving past, continue to spread out that distance between you and the Giants, because next week you have a series against the San Francisco Giants. So, guys, if you want, Jay, talk to me about what you're seeing this week.
Toronto is a good matchup. They're a team that we probably pretty match up pretty well with. The fact that we have, as much as we've destroyed Nola, Wheeler and Nola going, I think it's a good sign. It's set up great this week because you have pretty much your 5 going. I just hope, my worry is that they don't look past Washington at San Fran, because that's how big that series is. You don't take lightly, we're just going to blow through Washington. We just took 3 out of 4. I hope they don't look past that series and okay, we're gearing up. We're going to take these guys lightly. They need to come out and play. And like you said, because it's so close, there's a lot of teams in that race right now, 5 or 6 teams. So they need to just start stacking series at this point.
I agree. You have the Blue Jays for the 2, then you have the Nationals, the San Francisco Giants, the St. Louis Cardinals, then you finish August at home against the Anaheim Angels. Dean, what are your expectations and predictions for this upcoming week?
I'm going to go, I think 4-1 is where they're going to go. I feel pretty confident.
Yeah, me too.
The one loss will be Nola's start because he sucks. But I mean, listen, then we've said it a million times. The Nationals are not a good baseball team. I mean, we no hit them, so I wouldn't be surprised if we no hit them again. I'm not predicting that, but that's how bad they are. That it could turn around and Lorenzo could no hit them again. So 4-1 is where I see him going, because the Blue Jays are a good team.
Yeah. Yeah.
They very well could lose the Wheeler start, but I'm going to pick the Nola start because he sucks, and I hate him. So 4-1 is my prediction for this week.
It's crazy. I mean, I also have them 4-1. The Blue Jays are 12 games over 500, and they're 8 games out of
It's wild.
of the Baltimore Orioles. So yeah, I have them going 4-1 as well. I feel like they'll lose the Aaron Nola start. Look,
You
I
guys
just have
can eat it.
it's really
Both of
hard.
you.
Factually speaking, I mean, he's been their worst pitcher. I mean, he's striking out a good amount of guys as always. But guess what? I've said this before. I think strikeout totals now are overrated because the league strikes out at record paces every year. So I just feel like he's been their worst pitcher. So I just have to, in my head, just say, look, if there's a game to lose, it's a game where the guy towing the rubber is Aaron Nola. And I don't want that to happen. I would love for him to come out and go 7 innings of dominant baseball, but we haven't seen that in a month. So
he's going to go 9 innings of dominant baseball.
Yeah.
And still lose.
Just like you told me that he was going to not, give up like 1 hit in his next start after the Lorenzen no hitter. And,
I thought he was going to throw a perfect game. I did call a perfect game.
Perfect game. That's funny.
I agree with both you guys on 4-1. I think that's where we're at. I think we're a good enough team we should go 4-1.
I agree.
I wouldn't be shocked if we went 5-0.
I agree. If the bats come back alive, I think this weekend series would have been a really big wake-up call for that offense, saying, look, you could score 13 on Friday, but it's that easy for you guys to literally go bone dry on offense. And that just can't happen anymore. You just can't. And
not now, not this part of the season.
Nope, not. I agree with you totally, Dean. All right, guys. So before we head out of here, we have a couple show updates. Again, just so everybody know, we are going to be 2 shows every single week from here on out, and that's even going in. Once we get to the off season, it's going to be 1 show a week in the off season. But just give you also a programming note to prepare yourselves. If you want a post-game show for every game in the playoffs, if and when the Phillies get there, that will be us. We will be live after every single Phillies playoff game. Whether they, sweep in 3, win in 5, no matter how many games it takes, we're going to be live after each game. So you're going to have a live post-game show right here on Ring the Bell. We cannot wait to provide that for you guys. And then, of course, beginning next season, we will be 2 shows a week. I really felt like it was time to get to that point where I think you all should see our beautiful faces and hear our majestic voices more than once in a week. So that's where we're moving. Also, the goal here, this is just what we're hoping for. I'm not going to promise y'all anything. The goal is by September 15th, about a month and 2 days from now, our official Ring the Bell merch store will open and be open for everyone to go get your hats. If you want, you're going to have a Ring the Bell logo on a Nike shirt, on an Under Armour shirt. You want sweatpants, you want shorts. We're going to have that all for you. We're going to have different designs, different logos coming at you. They can be. Just for you.
We're getting in the gray sweatpants season, so
yes,
I want to make sure everybody can see me print.
So that's gonna we're working really hard.
Mainly just my girlfriend. But
we're working really hard.
If you want to look, Chris, you're allowed to.
I know, thank you. That's gonna be the banner photo of the Ring It group message. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be awesome. So yes, we're working really hard behind the scenes to get this done. Jason, especially, got to give a shout out to Jay. Is just busting his tail for this show to get this running, making a lot of things happen, making a lot of moves, and I'm so grateful for the effort. So yeah, by September 15th, right before the run for the playoffs, we're going to have merch for you guys, and we're super excited to bring that out to you. Just a lot goes into it because we don't want to just throw things out there that just have our logo on it and be like, hey, spend $20 on this shirt. No, we want to kind of create a lot of different options for you. That's why, we've reached out to our brand person who she's going to make a bunch of different things for us. and it's going to be really cool. Just so many things are happening, and we're really happy to keep growing with you guys. So I really want to say thank you also across all streams from this past Wednesday show. We reached well over 350 views. So that's not including the audio of this podcast. So we're really doing well, and it's all credit to you guys. So go ahead, Dean.
Will the Space Needle be on any of these logos?
I think it's gonna be on it's gonna be on a City Connect t-shirt. It's gonna be a throwback.
Okay, cool. Fantastic.
It's gonna be on a throwback, and the vet's gonna be under it.
Be on the bump August 2021 to September 2021. Or 22, I'm sorry. 22.
But yeah, we're so many cool things are happening. So thank you guys so much. Again, if you guys are still listening to the audio of this, which a lot of you do now, which is super awesome, head over to Apple Podcasts, give us a star rating, and leave us a review. It really does help us. Again, I'm not kidding you when I told you we're going to have a shirt that says in Philly's like writing algorithm, because I talk about it all the time, and it's very important for us moving forward. But all right, again, thank you. What?
Who's this Al you speak of?
I don't know. I mean, he could be your bodyguard or your long lost pal.
Mr. Gore.
Thanks. Thank you, Chevy Chase and Paul Simon.
Listen, Dean, you had to give me credit for coming up with that quick.
That was good. That was good.
I expect to see a text in George's message saying Chris had a really good one there.
I will.
So, good. All right, guys. So for
now text who cares.
That's gonna be good. All right, guys. So for Jason Canteen, Halls Apple, I'm Christy Francesco, and we'll catch you guys here on, I believe, Wednesday night. We'll be here Wednesday night for the post game and the recap of the quick 2-game series with the Toronto Blue Jays, and hopefully we're talking about back-to-back wins. That would be really huge for this team. All right, this is Ring the Bell, Phillies podcast. We'll catch you guys down the road, and as always, go Phils.